Erica Young Wrights here with After College Transition. Welcome and thank you again for tuning in. If you missed the last video, I invite you to pop back to the blog, scroll down to the most recent post, and check out that video before you watch this one. Watch that one first. In the last video, I talked about transformation, about how transformation is possible for us in our work, that even if we're not where we want to be right now, there is hope for a future for us in our own work. And I talked about transformation in our students. That's why we're in this in the first place, right? To see our students transformed in their college years and to live that out beyond. In many ways, it's the test of our work, right? Jesus does the transformation, but we want to see alums who are thriving. If our mission is students who are transformed during the college years so that they can go on and transform life beyond here, then the test is in how they're doing after here. And so we want to see that transformation in our students, and it's possible. We also talked about the importance of starting somewhere, even if that start is small. The prophet Zechariah reminds us to not despise small beginnings. And I want to applaud you. If you are here right now, if you're listening to this call, it means that you care. You care about connecting with students. And if you're watching this video, it means that you want to learn about how you can best equip them for life after college. So thank you for tuning in and for wanting to intervene in the lives of students so that they do thrive in the transition and beyond. Some of you feel like maybe I only have a little bit of time and small resources to pull anything off. And so it really has to be a small event. Your start this semester, if you're going to do something, needs to be just something simple that you can pull off. And I promised I would share with you a few low-hanging things that you can do. And maybe you're ready to take what you're doing to the next level. You're trucking along and you have some great things going. And so we'll also talk about how you can continue in those great efforts. Maybe you just need the encouragement to try something new. You've been sitting on something, an idea has been percolating, but you're wondering, I don't know if I can pull this off. Let me encourage you, try that thing this semester. Here's the great thing about COVID, and are there many great things? I think we can find a lot of silver linings, but one thing right now is that it is a great time to innovate and to try things. Many people are innovating in all different spaces due to COVID, and it should be the same for us in higher ed and for those of us who work with college students. This is a great time to try something, especially if you've been sitting on something and you're unsure. Trying it out now, there's a lot of grace and a lot of forgiveness if this thing doesn't go well, but this is a great time to try something new. So go for it. It's the perfect time, actually, to try something new. Now is also the time to prepare our students for life after college. I'm convinced that this is more important now than ever because of the world that we're graduating our students into. And so they need those tools and resources now. So make a commitment that you're going to try something. All right, here's a few things that you can try. And if you've been hanging out with me for some time, you know that part of what I'll encourage you is to simply do what you can to close the gap between what students expect the transition to be like and what might actually happen. And one of the easiest ways to close that gap is to bring an alumni panel to your students. And the super exciting thing is that COVID makes that easier than ever. You can invite panelists from all over the world to be with your students through virtual spaces, or you can do something in your physical space if you're meeting with students in person right now. And if you don't yet have the resource how to run an awesome alumni panel, I walk you through just some pro tips and questions to ask your panelists. You can adapt that resource if you specifically want to talk about the transition into the workplace, or you want to bring a panel to talk about finances. The resource is adjustable, but get some alums in the lives of your students so that they can talk about their success and struggle stories and normalize the transition, right? That's a lot of why we have our students hear from those who have gone before them so that they can normalize it. This week, I teach writing classes for Penn State University, and this week I brought one of my good friends, Kimi Cunningham Grant, who's a published author. She has 4 books, and her 3rd book is forthcoming, and she's working on another one. And she came to talk about the writing process with my students. And my students, for the first time, got to hear that it sometimes takes a writer 6 years to write a book. And one student talked about how he often sits down to write and then like steps away from his computer screen, and how he thought that was like something he was doing wrong, that, you know, taking those breaks was wrong. But when Kimi shared about how she likes to go for walks and that clears her head, it normalized for this student this practice that he thought was wrong or bad or like not focused. And so the more, it also taught my students that writing is a process. They can't pull off an essay overnight. And to see people have gone before us who are, you know, experts talking about these things, for your successful alums to come back and share with your students, again, it helps them see transformation too. So get a panel together. I was just talking to a person who's pulling a panel together for next month, and one of the things she's super excited about is to reach beyond the region where she is, because now she doesn't just have to invite local people to be on the panel. COVID has created an opportunity where virtually she can bring in all these different alums. And so it's super exciting. We should leverage this time. Now, for some of you, if pulling off a panel feels like, I'm not sure I can even pull that together this semester, no worries. We can start really small. If you've been hanging out with me for some time, you know that I care deeply about helping students self-reflect. I think it's in the age of constant information and screen time, it's kind of this lost art to pause, to turn off the device, to create a sacred space that's device free, and to self-reflect. And so how can you invite that process for your students this semester? If you're wondering how to do that, one little activity you can try, which if you've been hanging out with me, you know I do this activity quite a bit. You can see I'm sitting behind these posters, and each one represents from 1 to 5 a readiness for graduation. We call it the continuum of preparedness. How ready are you? From like 1, wait, I'm graduating, to 5, real world, here I come. I'm totally prepared, I'm ready for it. And we would take these posters and put them all around the room. If you're in a virtual space and you're not meeting one-on-one, this is easily transferable to an online platform. But the point is to get students to identify with how they're feeling about the transition. And oftentimes it's the students who feel really ready, like they will place themselves at a 5. Those are the students who might actually need some more tools before they head out. In fact, sometimes we can reduce readiness to this checklist of, you know, credits are in, I've got a job secured, I figured out my apartment, and my resume is ready to go, or whatever it is, check, check, check. And we can feel that we're ready when there's so many different facets of the transition, and maybe we're not really emotionally prepared, or there's other areas where we haven't even thought about preparedness. So if you need facilitator notes for how to facilitate that activity, just if you don't already subscribe, pop into that contact below this post, and I will get you the alumni panel stuff, the facilitator notes, as well as some other things. If you're here thinking, you know what, I could probably pull off that panel, and I definitely want to get my students into some self-reflection, even if it's just in your one-on-one conversations with students. You know, what are you excited about? What are you nervous for in the transition? Helping them process COVID and the ways that this year has changed them. Getting them to do that self-reflection is only going to help them even more in the next phase. So if you're raising your hand saying, yes, I can do those 2 things, and maybe even one more, I invite you to get your students together for a couple hours and facilitate a conversation around the transition in those 2 hours. And if you want notes for, you know, what you can touch on during those times, how to structure that 2-hour learning experience for your students, you know, this is a low-hanging, I only have a few hours, but I want to make the most of it. If you don't already subscribe, let me know, and I will get that to you as well. Do something. I want you to do something this semester, and I'm excited for the possibilities. If you have more to give, maybe you're going to do something like my friend Alex at Colorado Christian, who puts on a senior week. He slipped that in right before coronavirus last year, and he's doing great work. Maybe you didn't get it in before Corona, and you're trying to figure out how to do something in a virtual space, and maybe you're going to do stuff like my friends at Geneva College pulled off with a virtual workshop series where it was 2 kind of retreat-like weekends in a row, but students could come and go to the workshops that they were most interested in, and it built on itself, and they got, heavy hitters to be the speakers, and they pulled off a great two-part workshop series, all virtual, last May. And, there's so many different things. Maybe like my friend Jeff at Gordon, you're going to put together a podcast. He called it Launch. And there's just so many possibilities right now. I hope if you downloaded that PDF that said 5 mistakes to make, you notice that I mentioned thinking that there's a one-size-fits-all solution is a mistake. That your context, the needs of your students, and you can create into that space unique things. And so I have proven content that's flexible to your spaces, but do something. And that's really my hope for you. So if you've been tuning in with us, I just want to encourage you in the efforts that you are making. I have one more opportunity later this week that you're not going to want to miss, and then some more stuff I'm rolling out beyond that. But on Friday, we're going to get together and talk live about the 3 things that you need to address with your seniors before they graduate. So you don't want to miss out on that. If you don't already subscribe, make sure that you do so that you don't miss out on the details for that webinar on Friday, the 3 most important things to talk about with your seniors before they leave. And thanks for being here. Transformation is possible. You can do some low-hanging things, start small, or maybe you're in a certain functional area within higher ed and career services or res life, and you're like, I just want to take this thing to the next level. You can get this done. I'm here to encourage you and guide you along the way, and remind all of us that we are not alone in this work. We are in this together. So keep up the good work, and I hope to see you on Friday. Details coming.